There's a reason why some people vanish from your life and barely leave a trace, but a Capricorn doesn't vanish. They echo. They echo in your routines, in the silence before bed, in the way you now expect more from everyone who follows after them. Some zodiac signs leave fireworks in your life, bright, dazzling, and over in a flash. But Capricorn builds something different. They lay a foundation, one you start to stand on without realizing, until they're no longer there. And that's when the truth sets in. You didn't just love a Capricorn, you built with one. You didn't just date them, you evolved beside them. You didn't just lose them, you lost a piece of your own growth, of your own structure. Because Capricorns don't love lightly. They don't show up halfway. And they certainly don't leave without leaving something behind. They are the quiet architects of your emotional life, crafting safe spaces with silence, teaching through presence, and loving in ways so grounded, so consistent, you forget how rare it is, until it's gone. And once it's gone, you begin to understand the haunting truth behind this video's title. Why is it so hard to forget a Capricorn? Because forgetting them would mean forgetting who you became while they were in your life. And that is something your soul refuses to do. So today, we're not just listing personality traits or astrology facts. We're uncovering the 12 spiritual, emotional, and deeply human reasons why Capricorn doesn't just pass through your life, they transform it. By the end of this video, you may find yourself remembering someone you tried to forget. Or you may realize you never truly wanted to. Reason 1. They build with you. It doesn't start with declarations. It starts with presence. When a Capricorn walks into your life, they don't come to disrupt. They come to observe. Quietly. Intentionally. Almost like a blueprint unfolding in real time. They don't need to tell you who they are, their energy does that for them. There's a seriousness in their silence. A sense of purpose in their pace. And before you realize what's happening, something begins to form between you and them. Something solid. You might think it's just conversation. Just collaboration. Just consistency. But that's the Capricorn signature, they don't just do anything. Every interaction is a layer. Every gesture is a brick. Every routine becomes a ritual. And the next thing you know, you're not just spending time with them. You're building with them. I remember once speaking with a woman named Elise. She was in her late 30s and had recently ended a 5-year relationship with a Capricorn man named Marcus. They were never flashy. No viral proposal. No drama-filled breakups. Just quiet, stable years that felt like home. After the split, friends told her, "You'll find someone better." He wasn't romantic enough anyway. But what they didn't understand, what she couldn't explain at the time, was that what she lost wasn't about flowers or candlelit dinners. She had lost the structure. She missed the way Marcus remembered her mom's chemo appointments without her asking. The way he meal prepped for her when he knew she had a stressful week ahead. The way he never said "I told you so," just listened, took notes, and adjusted the plan. He was building something, she said to me, with tears in her eyes. And I didn't even realize how sacred that was, until it was gone. That's the thing about Capricorns. They're not interested in surface-level anything. They build for keeps, relationships, friendships, even professional connections. To them, every meaningful connection is a sacred construction site. And while others are busy performing love or loyalty, Capricorn is laying emotional foundation with the same devotion they'd give to building a cathedral. They bring a blueprint, not for control, but for care. They observe before they act. They listen before they speak. They test the soil before laying a single stone. Because what they're building with you is meant to last. And they won't risk placing something meaningful on an unstable base. You'll notice it in the smallest ways. They ask about your 5-year plan, not just your weekend plans. They remember what you said about your childhood dog, even months later. They suggest routines that quietly make your life better, financial planning, health goals, emotional boundaries. And when you look back, you'll realize the Capricorn didn't just show up in your life. They improved it. They didn't just love you, they strengthened the parts of you that were falling apart. But here's the tragedy, and the reason this building makes them so hard to forget. You rarely realize you're standing on something they built, until they walk away. And when they do, it's not just a person who's missing, it's the entire framework. The morning coffee routine that kept you grounded. The late-night pep talk before big meetings. The way they quietly made space for your future, long before you believed in it yourself. You feel that absence not like a hole in your heart, but like a collapsed foundation beneath your feet. And what replaces it is not chaos, it's longing. Not just for them, but for the version of yourself that thrived beside them. Life lesson. Some people decorate your life. A Capricorn reconstructs it. They don't give you fireworks. They give you pillars. And that's why forgetting them is never simple, because they don't leave dust behind. They leave blueprints in your soul. And even if time moves on, you'll catch yourself rebuilding parts of your life, using the same quiet standards they once lived by. So if you've ever had a Capricorn build with you, count yourself lucky. Because whether they stayed or walked away, they've already changed the architecture of who you are becoming. And that's the kind of love or presence that never truly disappears. Reason 2, they stay when it's hard. Anyone can love you in springtime. Anyone can show up when things are light, fun, and easy, when your hair is done, your bills are paid, and your smile is effortless. But Capricorn doesn't just show up for the sunshine. They show up for the storm. And when they do, they don't bring drama. They bring shelter. I once sat across from a war veteran in his early 60s, a tough man, quiet eyes, heavy hands. His name was Paul. He told me he'd been through deployments, divorce, and addiction recovery. But what brought him to tears wasn't war, or pain, or even regret. It was the memory of his Capricorn daughter, Rachel. She was 19, he said. Her mom had just left. I was drinking too much. And Rachel, she came home from college every weekend, bought groceries, paid bills, sat with me when I was too ashamed to speak, never judged, never asked for anything. She just stayed. Then he said something I'll never forget. Everyone tells me I'm strong, but she's the reason I'm still here. That's Capricorn. When life gets messy, they don't flinch. When others fade, they lean in. And when your world is falling apart, they don't look away, they hold it with you. This is one of the most misunderstood superpowers of Capricorn energy. People confuse their silence with coldness, their calm with distance. But what they don't see is this: Capricorn is made for hard times. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they were forged by it. Born under Saturn, the planet of discipline and hardship, Capricorns are cosmic survivors. And when they love you, truly love you, they extend that survival instinct to you. They carry your fear when you can't hold it. They solve what you can't face. They walk beside you when you've stopped walking altogether. And they don't do it for credit. They don't announce it. They don't post about it. They do it because loyalty isn't a gesture to them, it's a principle. It's how they express love when I love you isn't enough. If you've ever had a Capricorn in your life during a time of loss, a death, a financial collapse, a health crisis, then you know what it feels like to have that steady hand on your back. You didn't have to say much. You didn't have to be strong. You just had to keep breathing, and they'd handle the rest. And later, much later, when you looked back on that chapter of your life, you didn't remember their words. You remembered their presence. Their ability to sit with you in the dark without rushing to turn the lights on. Their refusal to leave just because it got uncomfortable. The sacredness of being chosen, even when you were hard to love. And here's the heartbreaking part. That kind of loyalty, you don't realize how rare it is until it's gone. Because after a Capricorn, you start measuring people by how they show up in hard seasons. You become less impressed by words and more attentive to actions. You stop tolerating fair weather friendships. You look around and realize that most people only want the highlight reel, not the behind-the-scenes breakdowns. They want the celebration, not the cleanup. But Capricorn, they were there when there was no celebration. They stayed when there was nothing to gain. And they didn't leave just because you were hard to love that day. Life lesson. The people who stay when it's ugly are the ones who shape how you define love. Capricorns don't just raise your standards, they become your standards. After them, you want more than charm. You want character. You want someone who sees your flaws and still chooses to sit beside you, quietly, without needing applause. That kind of love doesn't fade. It transforms the way you receive every connection after. Because now you know. Real loyalty doesn't announce itself. It just shows up, quietly, fiercely, without conditions. And once you've felt that kind of loyalty, you'll never forget the one who gave it to you. Reason 3. They love quietly but deeply. You don't fall in love with a Capricorn like a lightning strike. You grow into it. Slowly. Unknowingly. And then suddenly, one ordinary day, you realize you've been wrapped in something extraordinary all along, a love that wasn't loud, but lasting. A love that never had to shout to be heard. Because Capricorn doesn't love impulsively. They love intentionally. I once worked with a nurse named Camila, smart, steady, the kind of person who remembers birthdays but never talks about her own. She told me about her late husband, Jonah, a Capricorn. Their love story wasn't what you'd expect. No whirlwind romance. No midnight confessions under the stars. Instead, it was quiet things. A hot thermos of coffee in her car on winter mornings before her shift. A note taped to the fridge, "You're not tired. You're just changing the world." His presence in the back row of every stressful hospital presentation she had to give, never drawing attention, always there. He never said "I love you" the way I thought I needed, she admitted. But I can't name a single day where I didn't feel it. That's the thing about Capricorn love, it's not performative. It's protective. It's not grand gestures and fireworks. It's shelter. Structure. A quiet knowing that you're safe. They don't fall in love with an idea of you. They fall in love with the real you. And when they choose to give their love, it's not because of chemistry, or charm, or convenience. It's because you've proven something deeper. Consistency. Character. Capacity. You've passed the tests they never announced. See, Capricorn tests aren't loud either. They won't ask you directly, "Are you reliable?" But they'll notice how you handle disappointment. They'll observe whether your actions align with your promises. They'll quietly track how you treat people who can't do anything for you. And once you've shown them you're real, that's when the door opens. But not all the way. Because Capricorn love is layered like stone. You have to earn each level. But each one is more powerful than the last. At the surface, you might see their dry humor, their long silences, their directness that cuts through your fluff. But beneath that, there is a well of devotion deeper than most people are ready for. They love in a way that makes you grow. They'll push you to be better, not because they don't accept you, but because they see what you're capable of even when you don't. They'll challenge your excuses, not to criticize you, but to free you. And all of this is love. It just doesn't come with ribbons. It comes with action. With time. With a steady presence that doesn't just support you, it strengthens you. And if, for any reason, that relationship ends, whether time, fate, or even your own mistake, it won't be drama you miss. It'll be the stability, the peace, the way their love made you want to level up, not for them, but for yourself. You'll find yourself years later, facing a challenge, and without even meaning to, you'll hear their voice in your mind. "You've got this. But you better not quit." And you'll realize, even if the love is gone, the strength they gave you remains. Life lesson. True love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in quiet commitment, the kind that shows up, not with words, but with weight. Capricorns teach us that love isn't just about romance, it's about responsibility. It's about building something that lasts when the spark fades and the work begins. It's about being chosen every day, not in front of the world, but behind closed doors. And once you've had that, once you've been loved quietly but deeply, you stop settling for anything less. Reason 4. Their loyalty is real and rare. Loyalty is a word people love to use, especially in today's world where Instagram bias claim it, TikTok trends romanticize it, and friend groups whisper it like a badge of honor. But Capricorn doesn't need to say the word. They live it. And that's exactly what makes their loyalty so rare, and so unforgettable. Capricorn loyalty isn't loud. It's not about public declarations, dramatic ultimatums, or tests of devotion. It's not performative. It's not transactional. It's not about attention. It's about principle. You see, to a Capricorn, loyalty isn't something they offer to everyone. It's sacred, selective, earned through time, trust, and consistency. It comes from the part of them ruled by Saturn, the cosmic guardian of time, structure, and moral law. So when a Capricorn decides you're worth showing up for, they do it with their entire being. I once met a man named Reggie, a Capricorn father who worked 3 jobs to put his twin daughters through college. He never missed a parent-teacher meeting, never forgot a birthday, and when one of the girls got pregnant at 19 and feared he'd disown her, he simply drove across 3 states, showed up on her porch, and said, "You're mine. And you're not doing this alone." He never told her he forgave her. He never made her beg. He just stayed, handled it, protected her. That's loyalty. The Capricorn kind. When a Capricorn is in your corner, they're all in. They'll defend your name when you're not in the room. They'll guard your secrets like a vault. They'll go out of their way, quietly, to make sure you're okay, even if it costs them sleep, comfort, or convenience. But don't mistake this for blind allegiance. Capricorn loyalty runs deep, but never dumb. If you lie to them, betray them, use them, or take them for granted, they won't create drama. They'll disappear. Permanently. There's a silence to the way a Capricorn ends things. No fights. No explosions. Just distance. Just a shift in temperature so cold and sudden, you don't even realize you're on the outside until you're already frozen out. And what you've lost isn't just their company. You've lost their protection. You've lost the quiet certainty that someone had your back when it counted. And worse, you've lost the trust of someone who does not rebuild it easily. Capricorns hold themselves to a standard they rarely speak about. They expect the same. So if you disrespect the bond, they won't lower the bar for you. They'll simply move on with grace, but without a second glance. And in that absence, you start to feel what their loyalty actually was. A fortress. A moral compass. A quiet, unshakable belief in your worth. And here's the haunting part. Long after they're gone, you'll keep expecting that kind of loyalty in others. You'll find yourself disappointed when people flake, when they break promises, when they only show up for the good times. Because once you've had a Capricorn love you, fiercely, privately, fully, you realize how rare that love is. And you stop settling for anything less. Life lesson. Real loyalty doesn't ask for attention. It shows up in silence. It sacrifices in the shadows. It stays when staying is hard. Capricorn teaches us that loyalty isn't about words. It's about weight. It's the invisible thread that holds things together when everything else starts to fall apart. And once you've been loved like that, once you've had someone stand beside you not out of convenience, but out of character, you understand why loyalty, when it's real, is one of the most sacred forces in this world. Capricorns don't hand it out freely, but when they give it to you, it will leave a mark on your soul that no betrayal, no time, no loss can erase. Reason 5. They challenge you to level up. Capricorn doesn't care who you are when you first meet them. They care about who you're becoming, and they're not afraid to push you toward that person, even if it makes you uncomfortable. Especially if it makes you uncomfortable. Because if there's one thing Capricorn energy does best, it exposes your potential and demands you rise to meet it. I once coached a young woman named Sierra, bright, witty, passionate, but deeply unsure of her path. She told me about her Capricorn mentor, a woman named Dana. She never complimented me just to make me feel better, Sierra said. She challenged me to prove it. If I said I wanted to be a writer, she'd ask, "What have you written this week?" If I wanted to quit my job, she'd say, "Have you planned your exit financially?" Sierra laughed. At first I thought she was cold. Now I realize, she believed in me harder than I believed in myself. That's Capricorn. They don't flatter. They fortify. Most people love you where you are. Capricorns love you toward who you're meant to be. They are builders by nature, not just of structures or systems, but of people. They have a spiritual obsession with progress. They see laziness as poison, potential as sacred, and excuses as something to be outgrown. They're not trying to compete with you. They're trying to awaken something in you. You'll see it in how they challenge your habits, question your comfort zones, push you, quietly but relentlessly, to stop playing small. And no, it's not always gentle. It's not supposed to be. Growth with a Capricorn can feel like standing in front of a mirror you didn't ask to look into. They'll hold up your dreams and say, "Are you serious about this? Or just saying it for attention?" They'll see through your excuses and say, "You're capable of more. So why are you settling?" They'll call you out, not to embarrass you, but to free you from your own stagnation. This is why so many people misunderstand Capricorn energy. They think it's controlling, harsh, demanding. But the truth is, Capricorn holds themselves to the same impossible standards. And if they love you, they'll hold you there too. Not because they think you're failing, but because they see more in you than you've allowed yourself to become. And here's what makes this so unforgettable. Even after they're gone, even if the relationship ends, or the friendship fades, you still hear their voice in your mind when you're about to give up. You still remember how they didn't accept your excuses, how they looked at your raw, unpolished dreams and said, "Refine this. Make it real." And how, slowly, you started to become that version of yourself they believed in all along. Because Capricorn doesn't just love you, they upgrade you. They demand growth, not because they're dissatisfied, but because their love is constructive. It doesn't sit still. It doesn't enable stagnation. It builds. And that's why their influence lingers. You don't just remember their love. You remember what you became because of it. Life lesson. Love isn't just about being accepted. Sometimes it's about being held to a higher standard, one that awakens your future. Capricorn doesn't let you coast. They won't co-sign your comfort zone. Instead, they offer you a ladder, one that reaches your next level, but only if you're willing to climb. And once you've been loved like that, once someone has pushed you toward your own greatness with quiet consistency and fierce integrity, you stop tolerating anything or anyone that keeps you small. Reason 6. They don't ask for respect, they inspire it. There are people who demand respect. They raise their voice, flaunt their status, dominate the conversation. But then, there's Capricorn. They don't need to ask for respect because their presence already earns it. Without theatrics, without threats, without begging. They move through the world like they belong because they've done the work to belong. Capricorns are ruled by Saturn, the planet of time, responsibility, and earned wisdom. And it shows. They respect structure, discipline, consistency. They respect themselves, and in doing so, they show you how to respect them too. You rarely hear them brag. They don't need to. You rarely see them seek validation. They don't rely on it. And that quiet confidence, the kind that isn't performative, the kind that's rooted in experience, it does something to people. It causes even the loudest in the room to pause and notice. I once worked with a corporate trainer named Malcolm. Mid-50s, Capricorn, understated style, always in grey, no small talk. When I first met him, I expected another dry executive type. But within a week, everyone, interns, executives, even the CEO, began turning to him for insight. He didn't volunteer opinions. He didn't interrupt. But when he spoke, the room stopped. Because you knew he wasn't guessing. He had done the research. He had lived it. He wasn't trying to impress. He was trying to improve things. He's the kind of man you don't want to disappoint, a colleague once said. Not because he's intimidating, but because you respect him too much to let him down. That's Capricorn. They command from the ground, not the throne. Capricorns don't hustle to be liked. They hustle to build, to deliver, to show up fully and consistently even when no one's watching. They don't shout their values. They embody them. They'll show up 5 minutes early, keep their promises without reminders, say no to shortcuts, avoid gossip and games. And what happens over time is almost inevitable. People start to listen when they speak, not out of fear, but out of earned reverence. You begin to realize, this is someone whose approval actually means something, because they don't hand it out easily. And here's what makes their impact so haunting. When a Capricorn is disappointed in you, they don't explode. They withdraw. They stop engaging. They grow silent. And suddenly, the absence of their respect feels louder than any argument. Why? Because you felt their standards, and you knew they didn't hold everyone to them. Their respect is real. It's costly. It's earned. And when it's lost, something inside you knows you just lost the respect of someone whose opinion truly mattered. Even after they leave your life, their influence lingers. You catch yourself checking your own work twice because they taught you not to settle. Holding others to higher standards because they never let you cut corners. Listening more, posturing less because they showed you the difference between authority and arrogance. Life lesson. Respect isn't something you demand. It's something you demonstrate. Capricorn teaches us that character, not charisma, is the real foundation of leadership. They remind us that respect isn't about loud voices or fancy titles. It's about how you show up for your commitments, how you treat people when there's nothing to gain, and how you carry yourself in rooms that don't clap. And once you've known someone like that, someone who walked like their word and lived like their values, you stop being impressed by noise. You begin to look for depth, for consistency, for people who don't need applause to do what's right. That's the kind of respect Capricorn inspires, not through force, but through quiet, unshakable truth. Reason 7. They're unapologetically real. We live in a world obsessed with appearances. Smiles for the camera. Filters for the flaws. Politeness for performance. But every once in a while, someone walks in who refuses to play the game. Someone who doesn't fake a laugh when they're not amused. Who won't tell you what you want to hear just to keep the peace. Someone who speaks the truth even when it stings. That someone is often a Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the keeper of integrity, the enforcer of structure, and the destroyer of illusions. This is not a sign that sugarcoats. They don't smile to be polite. They don't agree to avoid tension. They don't pretend to like you just to make things easier. And in a world addicted to validation and flattery, that kind of truth-telling feels jarring, even offensive. But here's the twist. It's the very thing that makes Capricorn unforgettable. I once interviewed a musician named Will, who said his Capricorn producer once stopped a recording mid-session and told him, "You're not singing that line like you believe it. So why should I?" Will was furious. He'd hired her, paid her, expected encouragement. But later, after reworking the vocals and feeling the power in the final version, he admitted, "That was the moment I leveled up as an artist. Because she told me the truth, not what I wanted to hear." That's Capricorn. They'll challenge you. Not to hurt you, but to make you stronger. They don't do fake praise. They don't do empty comfort. They do reality, raw, honest, and sacred. And it's not just about criticism. When a Capricorn does give a compliment, you feel it. Because they don't throw them around. They don't say things to be liked. They say things that matter. And when they say, "I'm proud of you. I believe in you. You did the right thing," you know it's real. Because they wouldn't say it otherwise. But here's the paradox. Their honesty might push people away, in the moment. Capricorn won't coddle you. They won't dress up the truth in soft language. They'll deliver it straight, with quiet precision, maybe even a little cold. And you might get defensive. You might ghost them. You might call them judgmental or harsh. But later, when time passes and clarity sets in, you'll remember their words. You'll realize they weren't trying to break you. They were trying to wake you. They respected you enough not to lie. And that's what separates them from the rest. Because most people are polite for convenience. Capricorns are honest out of principle. Even if it costs them the relationship. Even if you walk away. Even if it leaves them misunderstood. They'd rather be real and alone than fake and surrounded. And years later, when you're sorting through memories of those who told you what you wanted to hear versus those who told you what you needed to hear, one voice will stand out. The Capricorn. The one who didn't flinch when they told you the truth. Life lesson. Honesty isn't cruelty. It's clarity, and it's one of the deepest forms of respect. Capricorn reminds us that truth isn't always comfortable, but it is always valuable. They teach us that authenticity, even when inconvenient, is the foundation of real connection. And once you've been around someone who never fakes a smile, never panders, never hides behind sweet words, you'll find it harder to tolerate small talk, flattery, and lies. You'll crave people who keep it real. People who'd rather offend you with honesty than betray you with politeness. And that is the Capricorn gift. They don't leave behind illusions. They leave behind clarity, and once you've seen the world through their eyes, you can never unsee it. Reason 8. When they speak, it matters. There are people who talk to fill silence, who speak for attention, who say what sounds good, but rarely what's true. Capricorn is not one of those people. In fact, one of the first things you notice about them is their quiet. They listen more than they speak. They observe more than they react. And when they finally do open their mouth, you remember it. Capricorns don't waste words. They don't do small talk unless it serves a real purpose. They don't compliment you unless they truly mean it. They don't speak in circles, they speak in truth. And that's why their words echo long after they're gone. I remember a story from a client named Elijah, a young entrepreneur who nearly gave up on his business after a series of failed launches. His Capricorn grandmother, a former accountant who rarely offered emotional pep talks, listened silently as he vented one day. Then, after several minutes of quiet, she said 5 words. "You're not allowed to quit." That was it. She didn't elaborate. But Elijah says those 5 words hit harder than any motivational speech. She never said things just to comfort, he told me. So when she said something, I believed her. That's the magic of Capricorn speech. They speak less, but when they do, it lands. There's a gravity to their voice. A tone that makes you pause. A stillness that makes you lean in. Whether it's a simple reminder, you're stronger than this. A quiet challenge, you can do better. A moment of rare vulnerability, I'm proud of you. You carry their words with you like a compass. Because they don't just say what's easy, they say what's necessary. And if you've ever disagreed with a Capricorn, really disagreed, you know this truth well. They don't argue to win. They argue to clarify. And when they speak, they've already done the thinking. They've weighed the pros and cons. They've run through the implications. So if they finally choose to say something out loud, it's already been tested in the fire of their mind. That's why it's hard to shake off their advice. Even if you reject it in the moment. Even if it challenges you, even if it stings, you'll find yourself weeks, sometimes years, later, facing a tough decision and hearing their words resurface like a ghost. Not haunting, guiding. This is what separates Capricorn from the noise of the world. While others are busy talking, selling, spinning, Capricorn is thinking, watching, waiting. And when they speak, it's not to impress you, it's to anchor you. And that kind of clarity, that kind of verbal integrity, it's almost impossible to forget. Life lesson. The fewer the words, the more powerful they become. Capricorn teaches us that real wisdom doesn't shout. It doesn't seek applause. It whispers at the right moment and leaves a lifelong imprint. After you've heard a Capricorn speak into your life, whether it's through love, mentorship, or even critique, you start paying more attention to who else speaks, and why. You begin to crave substance over style, clarity over noise, truth over comfort. And in a world full of empty promises and rehearsed performances, you remember the one voice that spoke few words, but meant every single one. Reason 9. They're mysterious by nature, and that mystery stays with you. You can spend years next to a Capricorn and still feel like there's a door in their soul you've never been allowed to open. They're not secretive out of malice. They're not hiding skeletons in their closet. They're simply private in a way that feels both sacred and frustrating. You know they love you. You know they care. But you also know you'll never have all of them. And that's exactly what makes them unforgettable. Unlike more expressive signs, Capricorn doesn't spill everything in the first few weeks of knowing you. They don't cry on the first date. They don't expose their deepest fears just because the mood feels intimate. Their inner world is like a mountain, majestic, silent, layered in mist. You can climb it for years and still never reach the summit. And the higher you go, the more meaningful the silence becomes. I once met a widow named Lucia. Her husband, Daniel, had been a Capricorn. They were married 31 years, raised children, built a life, weathered illness and loss together. At his funeral, she told me something I'll never forget. He was my husband, my best friend, and the father of my children. And I still feel like I never fully knew everything he carried. She said it without sadness, just wonder. Respect. As if part of him had always belonged to something greater. Something ancient. Something immovable. That's the essence of Capricorn mystery. They can share space with you, and still guard their soul like a cathedral. And the strange thing is, this mystery doesn't push people away. It pulls them in. Because in a world where people overshare everything, Capricorn's emotional restraint feels like a challenge, or a gift. Like a puzzle you're dying to solve. Every time they offer a rare glimpse, a late-night confession, a crack in their armor, a moment of visible vulnerability, it feels like treasure. And the moment passes quickly. Just enough to know it was real. Not enough to fully understand it. And so you return. Again and again. Trying to reach something you're not sure you're meant to fully hold. This is why, long after a Capricorn exits your life, they remain lodged in your memory. Not like a flame that burned bright, but like a book you never finished. You wonder what they were really thinking that night they went silent. You imagine what they wanted to say, but didn't. You replay their final words, analyzing their tone, the silence after, the pause before goodbye. Because even in their absence, the unknown part of them keeps you connected. The part they never gave you. The room they never let you into. The verse in the song that never got sung. Capricorn knows how much power there is in not saying everything. Their mystery isn't manipulation, it's protection. They reveal what's earned, not what's demanded. And in doing so, they remain, forever, a little bit out of reach. And that's what makes them unforgettable. Electric light bulb life lesson. What you can't fully understand, you never truly let go of. Capricorn reminds us that not all intimacy is about exposure. Sometimes, it's about what's preserved. What's sacred. What's too real to be spoken casually. They teach us that mystery isn't always something to solve, sometimes it's something to respect. And once you've loved someone who carried their soul like a sealed vault, you stop craving shallow transparency. You start craving depth, complexity, presence. Even if part of that presence forever remains behind a closed door. Because sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones that keep a little of themselves hidden. Reason 10. They protect what they care about, and that includes you. Some people love loudly. They post it, shout it, sing about it. And then there's Capricorn, who loves you the way a fortress shelters you from a storm. Silently, steadily, completely. Capricorn doesn't talk much about loyalty. They show it. They don't advertise their devotion. They live it. And one of the deepest ways they express love, romantic, platonic, or familial, is through protection. Not always physical. Sometimes emotional. Sometimes logistical. Sometimes spiritual. But always real. I once sat with a man named Jordan. He was 41, a Capricorn, single father to a teenage son with autism. His ex had left, overwhelmed. Friends faded. Extended family judged from afar. But Jordan? He rearranged his entire life-work schedule, finances, daily routine, not out of obligation, but out of something deeper. His mine. I'll hold the line. He said it once, simply. And it stayed with me. Because that's how Capricorns love, not with declarations, but with defense. If you've ever been cared for by a Capricorn, you've felt it. They'll notice when something's off before you even say it. Step in to help without making a big deal. Handle the hard stuff, the bills, the deadlines, the conflicts, while quietly making sure you don't burn out. They'll anticipate the storm and quietly start stacking sandbags. And they won't tell anyone they did it. They won't ask for recognition. They'll just do what needs to be done because your safety is their responsibility. Their love is protective in a way that's easy to miss until it's gone. Because they don't perform it. They engineer it. They plan around your stress. They buffer you from unnecessary chaos. They take hits so you don't have to. And when they leave or you lose them, it's not just the person you miss. It's the shield. The quiet vigilance. The rare sense of I don't have to handle this alone. Capricorn might not hold your hand in a dramatic speech, but they'll be the one holding the umbrella when no one else noticed it was raining. They'll defend your name in rooms you'll never enter. They'll guard your dreams as if they were blueprints only they know how to protect. They'll fight for your peace even when they're exhausted themselves. Because once they've chosen you, really chosen you, you become part of what they protect. And Capricorn guards what they build like sacred ground. Life lesson. Real love isn't always loud. Sometimes it wears armor and watches from the gate. Capricorn teaches us that protection is love in its most mature form. Not clingy. Not dramatic. Not attention-seeking. Just unwavering. They remind us that being held isn't always about hugs and words. Sometimes it's about strategy, foresight, sacrifice, showing up when no one else does. And once you've been loved by someone like that, someone who fought battles for you behind the scenes, you stop confusing performance for passion. You start recognizing the quiet warriors, the ones who don't make love loud, because they're too busy making it last. Reason 11. They make you feel like a team, not just a partner. There's a difference between being with someone and building something with someone. And no one understands that better than Capricorn. Because Capricorn doesn't just want to love you, they want to build a life with you. Side by side. Hand in hand. Shoulder to shoulder. As partners. As teammates. As co-architects of something real. With Capricorn, you won't feel like a passenger in your own journey. You won't feel like a backup singer to their dreams. You won't feel like you're doing it all alone. Because once they've committed, they're all in. I once met a woman named Rosa, a small business owner, who told me about her Capricorn wife, Jana. "I'm the dreamer," Rosa said. "The one with the ideas, the colors, the passion." And then she smiled. But Jana, she's the one who made it real. She built the website. She handled the taxes. She packed orders at 2 a.m. without ever asking to be thanked. Rosa paused and said something I'll never forget. She didn't stand behind me. She stood with me. Always. That's what being loved by a Capricorn feels like. Not romance as performance, but partnership as action. They don't offer empty support. They offer infrastructure. They'll help you make a plan when all you have is an idea. Watch your kid while you work on your dream. Sit quietly in the back of the room, taking notes on how to help you improve, not because they're judging, but because they care enough to invest. They're not there to look supportive. They are supportive even when no one sees it. And it's not just in romantic relationships. Capricorn brings that same team energy to friendships, family, and even business. If they believe in your vision, they'll back it with time, effort, and strategy. They'll be the one reading the fine print you missed, holding the emotional weight when you're overwhelmed, reminding you of your why when you want to give up. Not with big speeches, not with dramatic gestures, but with presence, with reliability, with the kind of quiet strength that makes everything feel a little more possible. And here's what makes it unforgettable. Once you've been in that kind of partnership, that steady, stable, build with you not for you kind of love, everything else feels lightweight. You start noticing who wants to shine with you versus who just wants the spotlight. You start noticing who checks in only when it's convenient. You stop being impressed by people who talk big but disappear when it's time to do the work. Because Capricorn taught you what real partnership feels like. The kind where your win is their win. Life lesson. Love isn't about having someone stand in front of you. It's about having someone stand with you when it matters most. Capricorn reminds us that the strongest relationships aren't built on words. They're built on shared effort, mutual respect, and the willingness to weather life together. Once you've had someone walk beside you like that, not just cheering, but carrying weight, you stop settling for love that disappears in the storm. You want a teammate, a partner, a co-creator of your future. And once Capricorn has shown you that kind of connection, you never forget what it felt like to be on the same team. Reason 12, you know they meant it. With some people, love feels like a performance. With Capricorn, love feels like a contract, quiet, binding, sacred. Because when they choose you, in friendship, in love, in loyalty, you don't ever have to wonder if they meant it. You know they did. Because Capricorn doesn't do anything halfway. They don't say I love you just because it sounds nice. They don't offer help just because they feel obligated. They don't stick around just to look loyal. Everything they do is deliberate. Every gesture, every word, every sacrifice. It's all been thought through, weighed, measured. And when they offer it, it's real. I once had coffee with an artist named Julian who had just come out of a 5-year relationship with a Capricorn man named Ellis. The breakup wasn't messy. No betrayal. No drama. Just life pulling them in separate directions. But 6 months later, Julian was still waking up and reaching for his phone to text Ellis. Still remembering how Ellis used to pre-order his art supplies before he ran out. Still thinking about the way Ellis showed up to every gallery event even when he was exhausted from work. He didn't say much, Julian said. But when he acted, I knew it wasn't performative. He didn't do it for recognition. He did it because he meant it. And that's the thing about Capricorn. They're not always poetic. They're not always expressive. They may never even say how much you meant to them. But they'll show you. In the way they remember the little things. In the way they never miss a deadline that matters to you. In the way they pick up your pieces without asking for credit. And when it's over, if it ends, you're not left wondering if it was real. You know it was. Because Capricorns don't fake connection. They don't manufacture effort. They don't perform love. They invest. They build. They stay. And if they can't stay, they still meant it. Even after they're gone, their fingerprints remain. In the way you plan ahead more than you used to. In the higher standards you now hold others to. In the emotional security you crave, because once, you had it. It wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect. But it was true. Final life lesson. Some people make you feel seen. Capricorns make you feel chosen. Not for a moment. Not for convenience. But in a way that changes how you define connection forever. Once you've been loved, supported, or stood beside by a Capricorn, you understand what it means to be valued with intention. Not desired, not chased, but respected, protected, built with. And no matter how much time passes, or how much life moves on, you'll always know. They meant every second of it. Conclusion. Why we never really forget a Capricorn. Now that we've walked through the 12 reasons, maybe you understand what your soul already knew. You don't remember a Capricorn because of what they said. You remember them because of what they did. They didn't just exist in your life, they built something inside of it. They showed up when it mattered. They held space when no one else knew how. They loved with integrity, protected in silence, and challenged you to become your best, not for applause, but because they believed in you. They didn't shout. They didn't beg to be remembered. But you remember them anyway. You remember the structure they left behind. The standards they set. The quiet moments that shaped how you love, trust, and grow. And even if they're gone, they're not really gone. They live in the boundaries you now protect. In the loyalty you now demand. In the strength you now carry because once, someone showed you what it looked like. And that someone was Capricorn. So if this video stirred something inside you, if it reminded you of someone, don't ignore that. Drop their name in the comments. Tell us what you learned from them. Tell us what stayed with you even after they didn't. Because chances are, you're not the only one who still remembers. And maybe, just maybe, they're still thinking about you too. And if you're a Capricorn yourself, we see you. We honor the quiet weight you carry. We know how hard you love, how deep you protect, how rarely you feel understood. But here, on this channel, you are understood. Because we don't just talk astrology. We talk truth. Speech balloon, so leave a comment. Electric light bulb, share your Capricorn story. Push pin, and if this video meant something to you, if it gave words to a feeling you've carried, don't leave without hitting subscribe. We're building something real here. A space for depth, for honesty, for stories that matter. Because the world needs more of that. And more people who love like Capricorn does. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep your heart grounded and your memories close.